In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to spruce up a simple wreath ornament with some 3D holly. It's Nicole here and welcome to BOCHIKNOT Macrame. In this tutorial, I will be going over a mini wreath ornament with 3D holly. So the base wreath itself is very simple to make. All you need is a long strand of cord, and then you're going to make several vertical lark's head knots all the way around. The more complex part of this pattern is the 3D holly. But for this pattern, because it is small and dainty, I wanted some dainty holly too, and that's why I've used 2mm cord for this project. And I do find that it is a little trickier to work with if you're used to 3mm and 4mm cords. If you need to slow down the video at all, you can do that by toggling the settings button at the bottom of this video and by changing the playback speed. For the ease of simplifying this pattern, I did use glue to attach all the elements like the berries and the leaves onto the wreath. Make sure you watch all the way through to see how I put this wreath pattern together. If you are a beginner with macrame, I definitely recommend practicing some of the basic knots of macrame first, especially because we are using 2mm cord for this pattern, so it may be even trickier to work with if you don't know the knots very well. We do have a free downloadable 50 knots and sentence ebook over on BOCHIKNOT.com, so if you want to have a nice handy guide with you while making this pattern to refer back to for the knots, you can definitely download that over there. And with all of that said, let's get right into it. To begin, you will need some materials and supplies. I've used 2mm macrame string and a 2-inch wooden ring. The cord I will be using for this pattern is a 2mm single strand cord from our Lush line. It is nice and thin, so it doesn't unravel easily because there are less fibers within a strand, which makes it hold sturdy. So there is a benefit to using 2mm cord, even though it is skinnier. It holds up really well, so you won't have to worry about it unraveling too much. The colors I have here are artichoke and natural on the right. I'll also be using the linen color for the base of the wreath, the artichoke for the leaves, and then the natural for the berries. And then of course, you will need a ring. I've chosen to use a 2-inch wooden ring because it is thicker than a metal ring. And so because we are making holly and we're attaching it onto the ring, you do want a slightly wider surface than, say, a metal ring. If you're interested in any of the materials used in today's tutorial, they will be tagged in the section underneath the video. To start, we're going to take our long strand of string at 240 centimeters long, and we're going to start making several vertical lark's head knots. To do this, weave one end through the inside of the ring and then leave a few inches on the left side like I am holding with my left hand, and then take the other end and guide it through for our first vertical lark's head knot to the right. The right end should be much longer than the left end here now, and then we're going to continue with the longer end on the right for our next vertical lark's head knot to the right. There should be about 5 or 6 inches on the left end. We will be tying it with the other end once we make it all the way around with the vertical lark's head knots to form a handle. Take the long end and continue with vertical lark's head knots all the way around back to the start. Once you've completed the vertical arcs and knots all the way back around, you should have the 2 strings facing upwards. Our first knot we're going to make with those 2 ends is an overhand knot right above the wreath pattern. Then at the ends, so skipping 2 or 3 inches, we're going to make another overhand knot up at the top. Once done, we can cut off the excess string at the end of this last overhand knot. So once the base pattern of the wreath is done, we can now head on over to making the holly. So to do that, we're going to need a strand of cord at 40 centimeters long. We're going to pin or tape that down horizontally. Now taking a second 40 centimeter long cord, we're going to place it vertically underneath the horizontal cord for a double half hitch knot in the center. So on the center of the horizontal cord, but also the center of the vertical cord. Before you fully tighten the double half hitch knot, make sure that the bottom end is about 1/2 inch to 1 inch longer than the top inch, just because we're going to be using that cord again to be making a double half hitch knot at the bottom, so you do want to leave slightly more cord at the bottom. Make sure that the double half hitch knot is halfway through the horizontal cord, and then using another 40 centimeter long cord, make another double half hitch knot right beside it. So once both double half hitch knots are complete, we will now take that right anchor cord and fold it over to the left to make sure that both ends on the left side are even, and if not, adjust accordingly. And then once they are even on the left side, we're going to bring the right cord end over to the left for 2 double half hitch knots to the left with the bottom 2 vertical cords. Now bring the pattern so that the cords on the left side are facing the bottom. And then with the bottom 2 cords, we're going to make a diagonal double half hitch knot over to the left. Then take the right cord end up at the top, bring it downwards for 2 double half hitch knots down on the right side, and then repeat the same thing with the top cord on the left for 2 double half hitch knots on the left side. Now make sure you pull on the anchor cords on both sides to tighten the knot so that they are nice and neat, and then finally make a diagonal double half hitch knot to the right. For the last row of double half hitch knots on both sides, we're going to make a double half hitch knot starting the same way, then include the working cord we had just used with the anchor cord group for the next double half hitch knot. Make sure you pull on both cord ends after to tighten the knot. And then now we're going to repeat the same thing on the left side. Make a regular double half hitch knot, then include the working cord with the anchor cord group for the next double half hitch knot. Last but not least, take one anchor cord from the anchor cord group on each side and use those two cords to make a diagonal double half hitch knot to the left. Now repeat these exact same steps over again for another full leaf pattern. Once we have both leaf patterns complete, we are now going to add some berries onto the bottom vertical strings of the leaves. Taking two 30cm strands of cord, we're going to make sure that it is folded a third of the way through the strand of cord. So in this case, approximately 10 centimeters down, we're going to fold both cords in, and we're going to make sure that the shorter cord ends are in the middle. Now, holding on to this spot, we're going to attach these two strings onto one of the vertical cords underneath the leaf with lark's head knots. Once both strands of cord are attached onto the anchor cord, we're now going to use the outer left and right cord ends as working cords for 3 consecutive square knots. Now we're going to leave a tiny bit of space, so about half a centimeter to a centimeter of space right above the first square knot. Then continue finishing the 3 consecutive square knots here. Now take the middle 2 cord ends, weave it through the hole above the first square knot, pull it through to the back, and then finish off with one last square knot underneath using the same cords. Now make another berry like this onto the other leaf pattern. Now that there's one berry on each leaf, we're just going to take another 2 strands of 30cm long cords and repeat for another berry on one of the leaf patterns. So once we have all 3 berries made, we can now start snipping off some of the cord ends and then gluing the rest of them and securing them onto the wreath. Start by snipping off the ends of each of the berries, and then we're just going to dab a little bit of glue on the ends to the back of the berry so that the cord ends don't come undone. Now repeat that for all the remaining berry patterns. For all of the vertical cords in which there is a berry attached onto them, we're just going to tie an overhand knot at the ends right after the berry knot, and then we're going to snip off the excess cord end there. We don't need too many cords to attach the leaves onto the wreath. All we need is just 2 cords from each leaf pattern. And then with the remaining cord ends in the middle of the leaf, we're going to snip them off. There should only be 2 cord ends on the sides left from each of the leaf patterns. So now we are ready to attach our leaf patterns onto the wreath. So I'm going to start with the 1 berry leaf pattern. And then I'm going to attach the 2 berry leaf pattern after that. Start by tying an overhand knot at the back with the 2 strings, then bring the cord ends back to the front for a double overhand knot. Try to make it so that the double overhand knot is tucked in behind the berry knot so it is not as evident. Snip off the excess cord ends and then repeat the same thing for the other leaf pattern. Now you can position the holly wherever you want on the wreath. I'm doing it on the bottom right side. You can do it in the middle at the bottom or middle at the top. It is totally up to you. Once you have attached both sides of the holly onto the wreath, you are now complete, but if you want some added security for the holly, you can dab a bit more glue onto the leaves or in between the berries so that they are nice and secure together. And you are now complete with the wreath patterns. I actually ended up making another wreath with slightly smaller berries, so I used 1.5mm string for the berries for that pattern. But I actually like the look of both of these patterns. Let me know, do you like the smaller berries or the regular sized berries on the right? And that's a wrap with our mini wreath ornament tutorial. These dainty and delicate little wreath ornaments are going to make the most thoughtful gifts to loved ones. I really hope you guys enjoyed making this one. You can definitely blow this little mini wreath pattern into a full-size wreath if you want, following the same exact pattern. We will be making an intricate wreath pattern over on the BOCHIKNOT Macrame community on Patreon. So if you guys want an intricate wreath pattern or several intricate Christmas themed projects, you may want to check out patreon.com/BOCHIKNOT for more details. We do focus on more advanced macrame skills over on the Patreon community, and we've still got a few more projects to go, so make sure you stay tuned by clicking the subscribe button and also giving this video a big thumbs up. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.